When I first got an AB licence, I worked down Jack Smith's boat harbour, and we used to bought an old truck for $70 and a 14-foot Clark and a 20-horse Merc, and got down there and got started catching abs down there for Alan Hansen.
What year would that have been?
March 71.
So the crows, the abs would have been pretty thick?
Yeah, a lot of the places down there, no one had ever dived them at that time. They'd been worked by bigger boats, but not round the close behind the rocks. A lot of it was all still virgin territory.
Well, can you give us an indication of how thick they were?
Well, it's a bit hard to say against catch rates now because we've all got that smarter but they were. There was still patches where they were tiled, like as for 20 and 30 feet each along edges, like they're definitely not like it now, but they weren't exactly. Bottom wasn't exactly paved with them, just the same, if you know what I mean. But there was abs were out further out onto the bigger abs were out further out on the edges, and they'd spread out and still living in a lot of places now. You can still see where the abs had lived there since millennium. Where they'd wore holes in the rocks. Well, I guess all them spots would have still had abs in them, and you can see a lot of places where there's actual scars on or implants into the rocks where the abs have been sitting there for that many thousands of years that the sands actually wore holes around where the abs used to sit. You see it quite often actually, even on the east coast.
There must have been a learning curve when you first went diving.
Yeah, you never had very good equipment and you weren't conditioned like you work like blazes and then run out of steam and I was lucky enough, not that long after I first started, another fisherman David Osborne took me under his wing, and he was a natural fisherman, and we worked together for a long time, and he taught me a hell of a lot.
What sort of things would he be teaching you?
Oh, basic seamanship and work ethics and just general fishing practices, like basically have a bit of a go, really. That'd be one of the main things. And he was just a real good fisherman, or still is a good fisherman.
There must be a knack in getting the most out of your time down there. Can you just explain what the sort of process is?
Well, as you got younger, you'd start off and you'd go like blazes, you know what I mean? But after a while, you learn to swim like a whale, like to sustain. You're more sustainable by swimming in a nice even. Don't race into things and do things very as efficient as possible, and you move through the water a lot easier by just generally how a whale swims. You can see why a whale swims nice and slow and for a long time, and that's the only way you can. That's basically how you work. That's usually the way, unless you really get excited and find a few real fast ones. But yeah, you could. When they're a lot in how you hold a bag. A bloke had even told me how to hold an ab bag once, and we used to use a buoy line in the early days, and you'd go down and you'd have a bag that had held probably 30 kilos, and you'd have a 10 fathom or 60 foot rope on it with a small buoy, and then you'd just fill the bag up and then tie the bag up, and you could just undo the rope and let the rope go, and then you go back to the boat and grab another bag. And we graduated out of that eventually to parachutes, just airbags, But this bloke, young bloke that was diving with, taught me an idea how to hang the line over your arm like this, so you could actually you didn't have to hold the bag a lot when you was onto good abs. You could chip an ab off with one hand like that, and you still had another hand to flick them in the bag. And that's just when you get. I still do it. I try to teach the young blokes to do it, but they won't listen to me. But you obviously had two hands to do it with. You can measure and chuck them in your bag, and your bag just come with you. But nowadays we use a drop line where the deckhand chucks a line over with a clip on it, and you don't have to come up. Probably every 10 minutes you'll hear the runabout come over the top of you, and it can be frustrating if they miss you or don't give you one quick enough or whatever. But generally it saves you coming up. I still like bounce diving a lot. of what they call bounce diving, just blow your airbag up and I've never really worried about coming up too fast. I just come up as fast as I can come up. Mainly, I think you got less time for the sharks to eat you, I reckon. Get up and get rid of your bag and get back down there.
So you actually take your bag up?
Oh, not all the time, but I have done. I was one of the last blokes to ever use a drop line. I use one. Anything under 10 metres, I don't mind coming up if it's under 10 metres, because you come up and have a bit of a look around, find out what's going on and see where you are. And, yeah, I used to years ago, not only blow the bag up, you poke the regulator under your wetsuit top and blow that up so you got a bit more speed, you could really fetch them up. Yeah, but you're not supposed to do it.
So you got to breathe out coming up, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the most important thing in diving to know to anybody. If you're using the compressed air, is to breathe out when you're coming up. That's the first thing that any young bloke, young kid, or who's diving on air must be told that.
Yeah.
That's not about the only thing you really got to know about. Like generally speaking, is to breathe out.
So catch rates, you'd be calculating them by the hour on how they've changed over the years?
Yeah, it was pretty well. On a really, really good patch of bottom, you can catch 300 kilos an hour. That's, I guess there's blokes caught more, but 300 kilos an hour is really good. 200 an hour. If you do 3 hours in the water and get 600, you're going pretty good. I've had, like I say, 3 hours for 900. 100 was recognised as being pretty good, but I tell you what, we're getting back down to sometimes now back to 50. They've dropped back catch rates. If you can keep up 100 kilos an hour now, you're not doing too bad. And I'm doubled up now with it. We do a lot of doubling up, and that pulls you back a fair bit in your catch rate. I don't know why, but it does.
What do you mean by doubling up?
Two divers working together on a T-piece. You have probably 150 foot of hose, and then a branch, and have 75 foot each whale. I don't know, it was 75 or 35, I've forgotten now. But anyway, you're working on a T-piece, you're together. You can see each other on a clear day, and sometimes it's a bit frustrating because you want to go that way and you want to go that way. Sometimes I try to pull rank and I'm going this way. And then if you're getting, that's a bit of an art working together. Two blokes working together is a bit of an art, actually.
Now, there's a lot I don't know about ab diving, but originally did you anchor your dinghy and thought it worked from it, and then you started diving live with the dinghy follows you? Can you explain that?
Yeah, originally we just anchored the boat and worked off a couple 100 foot of hose, and that's why we used the buoy lines. You'd have them. I used to dive by myself a fair bit, no decky, and just hang the buoys over the side of the boat, the thing over, and just you swim away and fill your bag up and tie the top of it up and let your buoy line go and swim back to the boat, or pull yourself back the hose and grab another bag, and till you filled half a dozen bags up, then you go around and round them up, and then bag them up and put them in spud bags, or and then jump back in and have another go.
So and then you went to what? That developed to.
Yeah, we started working. I was had one of the first deckhands in the state to actually work live. I had a young bloke work with me, and he's still a diver now, Brett Green. He worked with me when he was 15, and I seen Ricky Howe. He was a Maori bloke. He was recognised as the Black Flash. He was he'd come from King Island. He was probably the best diver at his time, and up here anyway. He had a big fishing boat called the Aquarius, him in it. And they'd come here, and they had a big boat with two 18-foot runabouts on the back of it. They had the biggest load ever into Strawn. Johnny Munn worked for it from King Island. And anyway, I seen Ricky, getting off that story, I seen Ricky's decky driving the boat one day out at the Petrels, and I said to I had this young bloke, he could drive a semi-trailer when his old man had him driving semi-trailers when he was 14. He could drive anything. And anyway, I had him started off just, instead of following me, he'd just pull the anchor up and move the boat up to where I was and then chuck the anchor back. And then I seen this bloke driving the boat, and I said, "Do you reckon you can do that?" We used to call him Rat. "You reckon, can you do that, Rat?" "Yeah, I reckon I can do that." And anyway, I gave him a couple of goes, and away he was off. And we ended up going up Cape Portland, and there was heaps of tide up there, and all the other divers were anchoring and couldn't work the tide. And this young bloke, young Rat, he was only, like I say, he was only 15, and he'd drive. We'd done really well. We'd just get in the tide and go down and get a bag and get out, go back up and run back down the tide again. Yeah, but that revolutionised, that's been in for a long time, but that definitely made a lot, revolutionised the diving.
Bit like the pearl shell divers.
Yeah.
Running down with the tide.
Yeah, You'd work some money. You could work, because when the abs were in a lot of tide them days, like a green lips like usually in the tide. Yeah, the craze of, they weren't exactly, like I say with the abs, they weren't exactly paved on the bottom, but there was a lot of craze about, there was no worries about that. Whereas there's probably more to the sake, there's not many about now, if you know what I mean. Like, occasionally I have actually seen craze where they must have got into a bull hole up there at Wallaby Point and hunters, a bag of hunters there. Once I seen a crail there, like, half as big as this room. Big as this room. And if you'd have fell in it, they would have eat you. Like it was like looking in a well of a boat. But that's only one occasion. You know what I mean? But no, you don't see many crays diving now. You wouldn't even hardly see one. Some days you don't even see one. Literally.
Compared with when you started, you'd see.
Yeah, you never seen thousands of them though. You know what I mean? There wasn't. The bottom wasn't red with them, but there was certain times of the year. I remember going amateur diving once down the west coast down there just before as a kid, and it must have been the right day, the right time of the year when they was all in around the rocks, and that was the most I'd ever seen down the coast. But I've never really seen great holes of them since I've been diving. You'd often. It's amazing, you'd be swimming along and you find a pot and you wouldn't see a cray anywhere, but then when you go on the pot and then there'd be 3 or 4 crays in the pot, you know what I mean? Like they come out of nowhere where you can't see them. Dad had come, we were staying out at Moore Banner, and Dad had come into town and run into Alan Hansen on the wharf when he first got here, and he told him that he was going to, and he come home and said, I met this Yankee bloke in town, he's going to start an ab factory, or do an Abalone, and that sort of got me going again. And I went to Alan rang me up, he knew I was looking for a licence, he was keen to get divers up here too for his factory, and so he must have put a word in for us to the fisheries he wanted more licences in this area if he could, and anyway, he rang me up I think it was a Sunday morning, he rang me up at home at Moore Banner and said there's a meeting at the Professional Fishermen's Association in Stanley that the minister was going to be there, and he said, you want to come in there? And so I went in there. Anyway, this meeting went on and it turned into chaos, this meeting. Bob Osborne got kicked out, Tommy Hardy was running the show, and the fishermen were going mad. The poor old minister, by the end of the meeting, Al said, you want to go up there and see him? And I was sort of a bit slow getting over. He got me by the shoulders and wheeled me up and pushed me up and made me ask this minister for an ab licence. The old minister, no, he'd had a bad day. He just, no, I'm not listening anymore, our licence. And anyway, the old secretary, Mr. Scott, he was walking along behind him, and he said, you just keep trying, boy. Anyway, that sort of gave me a bit more. So I just kept applying, and I ended up going down to Hobart. I'd never been to Hobart before. I got a little car and I went down there and made an appointment and sort of crept into Hobart early in the morning. I think I crept into Hobart actually late at night with the traffic had died out to find out where I had to go, and found the fisheries office. And anyway, I went down next morning, and old Mr. Scott was there, and only about probably 3 or 4 blokes. There wasn't many people in there, some little office somewhere, and down near the wharf. And he said, tell Mr. Maguire what number he is on the list. Anyway, he pulled out this list, and I could see the names down one side and halfway down the other page. And I was like, Christ, I haven't got hope, And he said, you're number 5. Oh, beauty. So anyway, I come home. I remember Dad going crook about me. Wasting $100, he reckoned. It was a $100 fee, you see. Yeah.
So bad price. You must have had some bad price over the years, Paddy.
Bad prices for the abs?
So frights.
Frights? Oh, well, to tell you the truth, you're nearly always frightened when you're diving. Not always, but a fair bit of the time. Or you can be. No, I've never had any real scares. Not under the water, no. I've never seen a shark. And biggest fright I ever got, nearly got drowned in a boat once. That scared me more than anything. Like at the Pyman River, we was trying to save somebody and got tangled up out in the barway and in the breakers, and through a bit of panic I ended up on the rocks. But yeah, that was the biggest scare I've ever had. Probably done me good too. Really made me appreciate how bad the sea can really be. It's a good thing to have on your side, not against you. But as far as diving goes, I've generally speaking, I'd rather catch 300 kilos a day nice and comfortably than catch 500 kilos with me heart in my mouth, if you know what I mean. You know, like, that's my way I do things.
Fair enough. So they've never been bent?
No, never had any bends. But you don't have to dive that deep up here, up this end of the state. It's not like down south where it's fairly deep. It's generally most of your diving up here is under 10 metres. 14 metres you're getting out, getting, you know, to your maximum mostly, where I work.
I've got a question here. What have been the best times? Has there been any era that has stood out as the best years?
Oh, I suppose it's like everything else. When you're young and starting out, it was probably the hardest time. But it was the most memorable. You know what I mean? It was the hardest because another thing that's really improved the fishing, the Abalone fishing, is the good wetsuits. It's like when we first started, we had bad wetsuits. It was forever cold. Cold was just you never got warm. You know, you got out of the boat and you're going to jump back in and you get a big, like a cup of water run down the middle of your back, and you'd be freezing to get out to warm up a bit, and then you sit on the boat for a half hour trying to warm up, and then you jump back in the water, you get another big heap of cold water, and you'd have a hole under your wetsuit arm or something, and you know, every time you moved your arm you'd be pumping water into you, and the winter time was horrible. You know, like you'd work all winter, never missed a day when we first started. You couldn't, because we'd only thought the abs were going to go for 5 years, you know what I mean? It was get in and get as much as you can out of them, and it was going to end, you know, like, I'm 42 years now and it's still going. But, no, and after I'd done it, initially worked really hard. I went through, when I had a young family, I never worked very hard for a long, I lived hand to mouth for a fair while, for a fair few years. I'd probably still do a little bit, but probably not as much as I did when I had a young family. I'd only go to work when I wanted money. When the bills got too big, I'd go and get a few going. But then I think I worked it out. I still worked 60 days a year, or you know, like. And I think I went and decided to get in it and work hard and made a heap of money, and then I ended up poor. I paid a great heap of tax and I didn't make any more.
Yeah, that happens. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Good. So yes, I know with the cray fishery up home there, when I was first in it, it was sort of get some money while there's still some there.
Yeah.
The meaning, like sustainability in that, but the words weren't used those days, were they?
No. We never realised that in the earth, when I first, we never realised that we'd have a continuous fishery, you know, like.
By managing it properly.
Yeah. No, it was just get as much as you can get out of it quick, because it's going to disappear. I don't know when we started realising that it was going to be a long-term thing. I guess back in the by the 80s we would have done. You know, like would have started to see some things, and one bloke come here that had been working in bloke Phil Critchlow. He'd come here he'd been working up out of Eden, so he'd seen an abalone fishery that was mismanaged and seen it disappear before his eyes, basically. And he come in and he started pushing hard to do things to conserve things, and no one wanted to listen to him for a start, but gradually the word started to spread a bit. He was instrumental in a lot of things, saving the fishery, or trying to save the fishery. I'm going to definitely keep you doing it while ever I can. I'm not sick of it. You can get sick of it. I've been sick of it. Yeah, and I feel a little bit sorry for the younger blokes coming in nowadays who've got to catch a lot of abs. It's one job, it can be an awful bad job if you get sick of it.
And what makes you sick of it?
Just doing too much of it. Just like a dog going hunting, My old man had dogs. He used to go hunting. They'd go hunting for a week and they'd come over and a wallaby could jump over them with a chain and they wouldn't even chase it. Well, you get you're exactly the same, Yeah, you're just the same. In the fish, you couldn't be bothered. And there's a lot of mental work in it when you're catching them. You're really into figuring out where they are, and you're reading the bottom. The same as when you're craying. You're working that sound like you were craying. You're figuring out where the fish are out in the edge. You're trying to find out where they are. You can usually, after the longer you've been diving, the better you get out of the core. It's a bit of a shame. I'm starting to get really good at it now. I might have to give up.